And what we're going to share with you is something a little bit more nuanced. It's not what you eat, it's the nutrients that you absorb. And so there are certain combinations of foods that work better than others.
I have pretty much yo-yo diet my entire life ever since I was young, but it finally came to a head, I would say about 5 years ago, December of 2019. I was at work and I suffered a seizure. Hey everybody, I'm Stacy Brewer and welcome to Wellness Blu. This is our first podcast. Me and my father, David Brewer, we wanted to do this podcast really to introduce ourselves and really give you an understanding as to why we have created Wellness Blu. We really have a passion for nutrition and a passion for informing others about nutrition and the best foods to eat to live their best lives and really to live your most optimal life is really our goal. Not only just with your nutrition, but also with your fitness and also even with your mental health. We will cover a lot of different things when it comes to Wellness Blue. And you can also check out videos of us creating certain recipes, etc. But for this, we really just want to have a conversation about health and the news of health. Now, keep in mind, we are not doctors, so you should always consult a doctor about your own personal health needs. However, we are very knowledgeable about the research and the studies that are out there currently, and we will discuss those things. But again, always consult a doctor about any type of specific issue you may be dealing with. But we are here to guide you. Daddy, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. I am David Brewer, Stacy's father, and I am a graduate of Prairie View A&M University in Texas, and I majored in biology and chemistry. So I've always had this passion for nutrition, etc. In fact, my father, David L. Brewer Jr., graduated from Tuskegee Institute in 1952. And when he graduated, he was hired by Jones High School in Orlando, Florida, my alma mater, the Fighting Tigers. And but when he went to the principal and told the principal, "Look, I'm only going to serve a meat, a vegetable, a starch, dessert, milk, orange juice, and water," the soda industry had a fit. In fact, his hiring was kicked up to the school board. And so the school board looked at it like this. They said, "Look, that may be the only nutritious meal that these children at Jones High School may receive that day." So they backed my father, and the rest is history. My father taught at Jones High School for 33 years. And in fact, when they built the new Jones High School, they named the cafeteria in his honor, the David L. Brewer Jr. cafeteria. So we've always kind of had it in our DNA, if you will, about nutrition. And Stacy's grandmother, my mother, lived to be 102. And the reason she lived to be 102 is because of what we did with her in terms of her nutrition. So we're going to share some of those stories with you, as well as some of the science. You know, it goes back to Hippocrates. Let thy food be thy medicine, and thy medicine be thy food. And we are firm believers that through food you can live a long and healthy life.
Absolutely. And why don't you tell the folks about not only you spoke about my grandfather, but how about also speak on my great grandfather, how disciplined he was. Every day he would drink what? Prune juice.
Yes, my grandfather was a postman, a walking postman at that. 'Cause you think about that, he was a walking postman back in the 30s and the 40s. And he was he's the most disciplined man I've ever seen in my life. He would come home after a full day of work and take a 1 hour nap. And he had a garden in the backyard. That's another key to this whole nutrition history with us. He had a garden in the backyard. And he would grow his own vegetables. He grew his own chickens, etc. He and my grandmother grew their own chickens, etc. And he basically drank prune juice every day. And so I said, what's up with that? And he would eat prunes, and of course that would help his digestive system. And now my grandfather was so disciplined until when he retired, the Postmaster General, and I think about this, the Postmaster General of the United States gave him a gold plaque because he never missed a day and was never late in 40 years as a postman. So that, that kind of became part of our DNA, to be honest with you, just to watch him and absorb all of that discipline. So he was a phenomenal guy, and so was my grandmother. My grandmother was probably one of the best cooks I've ever experienced. Now she cooked the old style. She cooked some fried chicken and all that good stuff, but it was good, wholesome food. And of course, my grandfather died. He lived to be 89, so he lived a long and fruitful life.
And that's the key when it comes to changing your health or maintaining your health. It is all about discipline. So, like my dad said, that's really in our DNA. And look, that doesn't mean that there weren't moments where we fell off in terms of our health. In fact, that has really been my story. I have pretty much yo-yo diet my entire life ever since I was young, but it finally came to a head, I would say about 5 years ago, actually pretty much 5 years to this day, pretty much. December of 2019, I was at work and I suffered a seizure.
It
Of course,
almost killed us. I mean, we had a fit, but keep going.
yes, luckily I was at work, and that just tells you, it kind of gives me chills just how life can be, because that could have happened while I was sleeping. That could have happened. I live in New York City. That could have happened when I was on the subway. But luckily, I was at work with people who cared about me. We're coworkers, so they're not my closest friends, but they cared about me enough to ensure that I was okay. They called the paramedics, of course. And yes, I had a seizure. I ended up going to the hospital, and it turned out after, I'll do a deeper dive into this, but it turned out that I really had low iron and had very low blood in terms of just, I needed more vitamin B, B12 in my diet. Luckily, after running a lot of tests, that's in essence most of what they found. I do deal with what a lot of women deal with, which is fibroids, which is something that I'm currently still dealing with. But I ended up changing my diet because at the time I was almost hitting 300 pounds, believe it or not. So I was overweight. I wasn't consistently, back to the discipline, I was not consistently eating right. I would sometimes dabble into the plant-based, and then the next day have Popeyes. I don't want to call out a fast food restaurant, but I'm just being specific. I would have Popeyes, but I'm not blaming Popeyes. Popeyes has its role in this world, but I was just eating too much of it. So I had gained, like I said, a lot of weight. But once that scare happened, like I joke with my friends, God only has to hit me in the head one time for me to get it. And I literally was knocked in the head, I guess. And I just changed my diet. I started walking daily, eating a mostly plant-based diet. I like to refer to myself mostly as a flexitarian, meaning I mostly eat plant-based, but I do have my free days where, yes, I may actually have some fried chicken sometimes, to be honest. Now, I know my
Yes,
dad
we know.
doesn't,
We know about that. Yes, for sure.
I know my
Well, let
dad
me let me
doesn't
let me let
necessarily
me
like that,
let
but
me
hey,
interject here
go ahead.
because your mother and I almost had a heart attack. We flew up to New York to be with you when you were, in the hospital. And what did I tell you? First thing I told you, I said you're going on your grandmother's diet.
Yes.
And so for those, one of the reasons my mother lived to 102 is because I changed her diet. She was uh, eating, the normal standard American diet. But I knew based on my research at the time, one of the people we follow is two people we follow is Dr. Furman, Joel Furman, who wrote the book Eat to Live. He has a book called Eat to Live, and in that book, he talks about the G bombs diet: greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds. We think that's a phenomenal diet. We also, for our research, we follow Dr. Michael Greger of nutritionfacts.org. And so, based on that research, I changed my mother's diet. I started giving her a much more plant based diet. I like Stacy. I don't eat. I'm not a vegan. I'm a vegetarian. I do eat meat once a week, and that's about and that's
So,
normally
so
fish.
you're actually more of a pescatarian because you eat fish.
Pescatarian, yeah, I'm more of a
Hmm.
pescatarian, and so I'm 78, almost 79 years old. I don't have any underlying conditions, and so the same thing happened with my mother. In fact, Stacy, my mother, went to Paris, France, and when she was 94 years old, my mother's father fought in World War I, and she wanted to go see where he matriculated in France during World War I, and so we flew to Paris, France at 94. With my wife and I had already been, but my daughter Stacy had not been, so we took Stacy. And so when we got there, she was a trooper. I mean, she went through that trip like nothing. And at 94, no underlying conditions, because we had changed her diet. Again, it was all about nutrition. And so that was a phenomenal experience for all of us. And so, and of course, she lived almost 6 weeks short of 102. And she was, even then she was still in fairly decent health. So she didn't have to go into some nursing home, or et cetera, et cetera. So we learned something from that experience, and so that's what we're going to share with you all. We're going to share what we learned from that experience, not only with my mother but with Stacy's journey. I mean, Stacy's journey is phenomenal. Everybody, you got to see it. You really got to see her journey.
Yes, I have to stop being so shy and share more of it. But as my dad mentioned, I do follow Dr. Fuhrman and Dr. Greger's. I loosely follow what they suggest, which is the G Bombs diet or the daily dozen, believe is what Greger calls his diet, and they're very similar. But the point is to eat, according to them, to eat a certain group of foods every day. Like my dad mentioned, the G Bombs diet is greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds. Gregor incorporates the same, but he also adds hibiscus tea, matcha green tea. He really promotes a variety of fruits and vegetables, because people, as I've heard him say, tend to eat just maybe one or two fruits per day. Like they just choose the fruit they like, and that's just it. That's what they eat. But he really encourages variety when it comes to your fruits and vegetables.
And what we're going to share with you is something a little bit more nuanced. It's not what you eat, it's the nutrients that you absorb. And so there are certain combinations of foods that work better than others. For example, a study done in among Asian women, and that is that green tea, especially matcha green tea, which is the powder version, a squeezed lemon helps you absorb the EGCG, which is the antioxidant in green tea, better. And cook mushrooms daily, 89% reduced risk of breast cancer. So you're going to get information from us like that. So it's the combination that introduced to you that work better. And there are certain foods that you should not eat together, because the one food will block the absorption of nutrients in others. So you'll get all of that information from us.
And what my dad just mentioned, of course, that is again based off of a study that is available online. That is, it's not a claim we're making, but that is based off of an actual study about eating green tea and mushrooms, and it, according to the study, reducing your risk of breast cancer. But again, look, I'm a lawyer. I have to say this, but always consult your doctor about your nutritional needs when it comes to things like that.
Okay, so this is our introduction. Now that you know us, stay tuned, and we will be sharing more and more information with you via Wellness Blue.
That's right. Thank you so much, everybody. Until next time, peace.